This is Westminster chiming clock, a German movement in the case, unbranded at the moment. We can't see that. We'll have a look. There may be something on the front of the movement when we get there. First thing we do with a clock when we get it, before we start taking it to pieces, is just check to see what we can find out, what information we can find out about it. I've wound up each of the 3 springs, and as I move the hand on the clock, there's no striking, no chiming, no nothing. Up here is a silent and chime section of the clock. There should be a lever there pointing out there that you can turn it on and off. There's nothing there, so I would suggest that maybe it's fallen through into the back, and that's probably why it's not making any noise. Certainly not chiming. Alright, the case is pretty rough. You can see around there and there, and over here, over to there. So I'll strip that down once the movement has been cleaned. Yeah, you can see that a little bit easier. I'll strip that down once the movement's been cleaned and polish it up. We'll get rid of all these scratchy little marks up here and blemishes in places where the varnish has been chipped off. Bear in mind this is a clock from the 60s, so it probably spent most of its life on a mantelpiece over a fireplace. In those days, wood was burnt in fireplaces to keep the home warm, and also most people were smokers, so there would have been smoke from the fire and tobacco smoke, etc. over this clock. So it hasn't done too bad really, but we'll strip all that out and start off again from scratch. We'll clean up these metal posts up the side here, and we'll get that done, and then be able to display the clock and see that it looks rather nice, a lot better than it does at the moment. That's the original pendulum bob with its rating nut on the bottom. We'll look at that further once we get into it. But we're now about to start taking the movement out. First thing we do before we remove the movement from a clock is to take the hands off. Undo this little knurl nut here. Come off, put it in a dish so don't lose it. Now, when it comes to the hands, sometimes you can pick them out just using your fingernails. Other times you might have to use one of these instruments or one of these, and I'll probably use this one today. They're called hand pullers, because you don't want to grab a hand and drag it up. You'll bend it for sure, because they're only very thin material. So I'll put this hand puller on it, rock it backwards and forwards, and that's the first hand off. Now the hour hand is very close to the front of the case there, so we have to be very careful getting in under it to get a start on it. I'll lever that up with a screwdriver and then slide the hand puller in underneath. Then start to move it. Actual fact, it's pretty tight, so I'll take the screwdriver out and turn down on the hand puller. It's sitting on top of the minute arbor, and that removes it. Take that out, the hand's gone. You can see the movement's dropped into the case, so it's obviously not very well attached. Alright, next step, we'll We'll turn the clock over and we'll start to remove the movement. Right. The movement's out of the case now. It was held in by one screw, which will account for why it was slapping round into the case. With the grease on that, oil just running down everywhere. Also, the reason that the chimes weren't working is the chime lever, which is just there, that piece there, is broken. And it was pushed down like that, which stops the chime mechanism working. So we'll have to look at that when we go through it. I don't know if we can replace that, but once we move that, we see the movement starts working properly and the hammers are lifting. Right, so what we'll do at the moment, get a little block to put underneath that, just to hold it up a little bit. Then I'll put the minute hand on, we'll turn it round, we'll see if we can get the hammers to work. There we go. Wind it round, we don't know what time it is or anything, but we'll see what we can get to happen. That rat is caught there. Are in a shocking mess. Turn round again. It's up past. Quarter to. That's the hour. Let's see if it strikes. Nope, it's not. It's starting to sequence again. Alright, we've got a bit of work to do on this clock. I'll stop that. Take the minute hand off. Start off by removing the hammers. Spanner here that fits. Do these nuts. Put them in the tray. A bit tight, but it's got it moving. Now I'll mark that to there, so we know that's at the top when it comes out. Remove that, put it aside. Everything is super saturated in oil. Look at all the oil on that. take the hammers off. Wash at the top. Take them off in the order they came off. Then lie them down in the same order. Or put them aside. We'll clean those up later, get the oil off them. Wow, oil everywhere. Alright. Should be a bit deeper actually. I might put a clip on the top of that so we can keep it a bit more stable. Right, that goes over there with the hammers. So today, now we'll let down the mainsprings before we start doing anything with the clock. I think they're number 8s. Yep, well done. Number 8. My little screwdriver. Put a little bit of pressure. Turn that round. You can see it more clearly. That's the click. That's the click spring. I'm going to wind going train up slightly, put my screwdriver under the click, and then let the let down tool slide round in my hand until all the pressure's gone from that spring. Right, we'll do the same with the chime side. Bit of pressure on it, wind it up, pull the click back, hold it, let the let down tool slide around your hand. That's finished. Now over to the strike side. That was the chime side we've just done. Same thing again. Hold the movement steady. Wind. It was fully wound up. It's pretty damn tight. Those springs aren't working very efficiently either. Look, they'll have to be pulled out a little bit. It's not holding the ratchet in place. Well, let's let down the springs. Remove a couple of these pillars at the back, and then we'll start taking the movement to pieces. Right, next thing we'll do is we'll remove the clicks, the click springs and the ratchets. And you can see the amount of oil on that. Oil on everything. Unfortunately, people seem to think that if their clock isn't working, the best thing to do is to drown it in oil and it'll suddenly start working. And unfortunately that isn't the case. I'll take this click off first. I'll put it into the going side parts dish. Then the click spring. Goody, 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 goody. We'll have to wipe all that off before we put it into the ultrasonic cleaner. That's part of the reason there's such a shine on here on the clock. The light's shining off all the oil that's on there. It's not meant to be quite that shiny. then we remove the ratchet. Alright, that's the going train. Now the strike side, same thing. Take the spring off. So I said before, we'll have to open those springs up a little bit because they're not pushing the click against the ratchet and not holding it there. The last thing we want is for the spring to start unwinding rapidly, destroying wheels, chopping teeth out of wheels, etc. That. We go on the strike side. Now, take off the chiming side. Click spring first. God, that's down tight. Oh, it's got him, I think. Seriously screwed in tightly. No, it still is. Slipping on it. Alright, I'll leave that for a moment. We'll take the click out. Put it in our chime side container because we keep our parts separated. That way it's easier to know what goes where once you start reassembling your movement. Over. Grease everywhere, shocking. Not grease, oil. Alright, so they're off now. I'll lift it up. You can see the shine on that. That's all the oil on the movement. That's absolutely atrocious. Alright, we'll have another crack at the click spring. And get it started. That's cracked him. Got him. Lift it up. Put it in the chime side box. Wow, there it is. Oil's obviously very cheap, or the grade of oil they used to be able to afford to waste that much. I'll wipe some of that off at the moment before we go any further. Look at that, great. Absolutely shocking. Alright. Now, I'm taking the next piece off. A pair of sharp nose pliers. And I'll remove this split. It's a bit tight, I might have to push it. It's a mighty tight circlip we've got there. Doesn't want to move. Wow, that is tight. Not wanting to move at all. If I can push it in a bit this way for a start. Nope. Well, might have to tear that one off and replace it. It's seriously caught in there. Give it one more try. Get the face on it. Nope, not gonna move. Right, well, turn that back, remove it, and I'll replace it with a new one, because we're not going to get anywhere while that stays on there. That is a demon of a thing. Really doesn't want to move. Thank you. Finally got rid of it. Take the snail off, put it over there. The snail in there. Now we'll have a look at the rack. That's held on with a bent pin. A little bit of wire, I think, has been pushed through that and bent. Yeah, very thin bit of wire. Everything's pretty hard to get at in this. As well as being super oily. And I'll open that up a little bit. Looks a bit better. Now we might be able to remove it. Wire. See if we can pull that out now. Theory, there we go. Got him, it dropped out. What was that? Nope, there's still a little bit in there, it's broken, that's what happened. We'll be replacing that anyway. Yep, get rid of that, we don't want that. And that's the rack. That piece there. Take the broken chime silent lever off. It doesn't work anyway. That out of the road. Right. Now we can see what we've got. Pin in there. We'll take that flirt off there. That's got a bent piece of wire holding that in also. Push that down. Clip on that and pull it out if possible. Right, let's get rid of those. Now, more oil appearing everywhere. Getting oil on everything round here. There we go, that's got him. Now we'll pull out the winding arbor. That's the barrel from the strike side. This is the going train. The winding arbor. The spring barrel, mainspring barrel, put them aside. Once again, everything absolutely covered in oil. Pick the movement up. I'll move the box out of the road so we can move on with what we're doing. And a bit of a wipe. I don't want to get oil over everything on my desk. Yeah, we'll take that one off next. All right, now once again, Got a very fine piece of wire bent over here. It's holding that flirt in. By the way, a flirt is a generic name for any lever in a clock movement. That's pretty much got it out, I think. I don't think unless there's some left in there. Must be a little bit. Yep, there's a tiny little bit of wire in there. I'll try to remove it with a set of serrated nose pliers instead of the usual flat nose pliers we use for clockwork. You can hardly see it, but it is there. Try that one. Oh gee. And while we're there, we'll take the next one out too. Screwdriver, push the piece of wire down. It's a bit tricky to get at. There's very little clearance in there for me to fit the screwdriver in. There's no need for these to be pushed in so incredibly tightly. A slight turnover is quite sufficient to hold them in place. I'll use a screwdriver again to remove the wire away from the back plate. It's certainly very, very tightly pushed down in there. It's very tight in there. That wire is seriously jammed in there. That's got it. Alright, see what we got. Flirt there, and that one there should be loose now. There, still being hard, playing hard to get on with. Alright, well, the springs are seriously let down, plus they're not there, so we know that. I'll undo the nuts on the pillars now. We'll take the top plate off. There, first one in. And then see what we've got inside. Then wipe a lot of the oil off the parts and get them ready to go into the ultrasonic cleaner. Good one. And the last one. Right. Now, very carefully lift the top plate up. We can see what we got in there. That one. I think that there's a slight bend in the top plate where it fits over the pillars, and that's not particularly helping to be able to remove it. Still a little bit tight. Right, I'll have a look at that off camera and see what, once I clean the oil off my gloves, have a look and see what we've got in there, see what the problem is. Right, we'll start getting the parts ready to put into the ultrasonic cleaner. I'll start off by cutting some wire so that we can tie the pieces together from the same train. That'll make them easier to identify once we take them out. First wheel, second wheel. It's a nice strong bit of wire there. Bend that down a bit. Next piece I'll take up is the warning wheel. We'll put that onto the piece of wire. Warning wheel. And we'll put the fly on. It'll just fit in there. Now I'll take up a pair of pliers to twist the wire off. Bend that around. With this tough wire, I'd be lost without a decent pair of pliers to twist it off and hold it. That'll hold them in place. That's the chime side wheels ready. I'll put them aside. Cut a piece of wire now for the going side train. Now we'll do the going side train. Cut another piece of wire. Bend it in half. First wheel, second wheel, third wheel, and the escape wheel. The escape wheel easily distinguished from the other wheels in the clock movement by the shape of its teeth. Twist the wire around so we don't lose the parts. It's a bit better. Hold with a pair of pliers, twist it round. That's better. Right. A bit more light on that, I think. That's the going side train. Put that aside. Now take up some more wire. Now we'll do the strike side. Another piece of wire. Bend it in half. First wheel. Second wheel, it's also called the star wheel for obvious reasons. Warning wheel and the fly. Put them all on that piece of wire. Twist it round. Bend it down. Twist it round. And that's the strike side train. Now we've got other pieces to put on. The rack and the pinion, we'll tie them down together. Another piece of wire. We can pull it out of the loop, we will. Actually, I'll take that off. Piece off so we can drag it out from the other end. Right. Another piece of wire. Put the snail on first. Then the rack. Bend the wire up. Twist it round. Now a pair of pliers. Rack and snail all together. The mainspring barrels, I'll take them apart. We'll take the mainsprings out, clean them and lubricate them, and then put them aside so we can then use the barrels to go into the ultrasonic cleaner. So we'll leave them for a moment. We've got other parts here. we'll put in these super duper little tea strainers, keep them all together. The nuts and the screws that went with that, tighten it down. Oops, a little bit too tight. See if that fits in a little bit more easily. It's got him. Clamp that down. Right, we've got some other parts now that we're going to get ready to put in the ultrasonic cleaner. Cut another piece of wire, bend it in half. We'll put these two parts on from the chiming and striking mechanism at the rear of the movement. Here we go. It's got them together. Put them aside. Now, our hammers, which we can see there, I'm not going to put them into the ultrasonic cleaner simply because the leather on them will absorb the solution and it seriously won't do the leather any good at all. We could in actual fact tie it like that and drop the bottom piece into the ultrasonic to have it cleaned, but then the hammer heads wouldn't be clean, so you'd have a half piece clean and the other half not clean, and yeah, that'd look a bit strange, I would think. So we'll leave them out entirely. We've got the verge and the back cock here. We'll put them in. We've also got two pillars from the chiming mechanism at the back. They'll go in. Plus we've got our 4 nuts there that hold the plates onto the posts. We'll put them in a small container because there's only 4 of them. Pop them in there. Put those aside. Now that's all the parts other than the clicks and the barrels. Alright, we're ready to start taking the barrel to pieces. First up, we'll take out the winding arbor. Once we've undone it, it'll come out. There we go, it's the winding arbor. We'll have a look at the end of it. We can see that it's pretty rough. It's been mistreated a fair bit. Look at the dents on that. We'll file that flat, square it up again before we use it. We'll probably find the same on the other winding arbors also. Put that back in the tray for the moment, we don't want it. There's our barrel. Now there's various ways you can remove the cap, that piece there. You can put a screwdriver in there and lever it up if you like, which is probably not the best thing to do because you can tend to make a mess around here where it joins up and it'll catch. What we prefer to do is to put the barrel in your hand, get a firm grip on it, keep your fingers off the top, and then using a small ball peen hammer, line it up and give it a couple of quick sharp hits with the hammer. You'll find that the cap comes off. That's the cap, complete with grease and oil inside it naturally. Put that on there. So what we're going to do now is we're going to remove the spring on a spring winder, but before we do that we have to find a sleeve that is the correct size for the barrel. Right, so there's a box of sleeves. We'll have a look and see what we've got. Close. I think that's probably the one. Yep, that one there's a little bit too big. Won't quite fit inside. bigger, I want smaller. So I think our first option was the way to go. That one there. Okay, that's the sleeve we need. We'll put those aside. We'll get our spring binder out and we'll remove the springs from the barrel. First thing we have to do is we put the sleeve onto the spring winder. Then have to put the winding arbor back into the barrel so we can undo the spring. We check, make sure that the winding arbor is caught in the spring. Then we'll open up the spring winder, the winding arbor into the chuck and tighten down the spring winder. The other piece of kit we're going to need that I forgot to mention is a leather glove, because you're going to be holding the barrel here and it's got all these teeth cut in it, and if it slides around in your hand you'll really know about it. Alright, so we'll now start winding up the spring, turning the handle slowly. And then we align the lug, as I shall show you in a moment, because it's not an easy angle to get. Then we'll undo the spring winder, undo the chuck, and I'll show you what we've done. That's the lug on the barrel. That what we've done is we've aligned the sleeve so that the hole in the sleeve slides down over that lug, and then we turn it. That will allow a little bit of the spring to end up outside that slot that we'll see in a moment, so that we can attach it to one of these hooks on the spring winder to unwind it again. Right, what we do now is we roll the spring backwards and forwards until it unhooks from that lug there, that you can see that lug there, and the mainspring just pulls out of the barrel. Spring is now out of the barrel. We'll put that aside. Now what we've got to do is take the spring out of the sleeve, and you'll see that the hole in there is sticking out through about 3/4 of an inch or so, and now you'll see why. Put the winding arbor back into the spring winder. Then get one of our hooks, hook it into the bottom of the spring, close up the spring winder like so, change the rotation, and then holding it with the glove, wind up the spring winder once again, and then you'll feel the sleeve slide off. There it is there. The spring is contained. So reverse the spring winder, put your glove over the spring. You don't want it to expand dramatically all over the place and hit things. And there it is there. There's the spring. It's now out of the barrel. We're now going to clean it, and I'm going to show you today a different way to clean it than the way that you normally see me do it. This is another alternate method for people who want to learn a bit more about it. So what we'll do is I'll take that safety piece off the spring winder, undo the chuck, and the spring comes out. There it is there. So we'll remove the winding arbor from it. We'll have to wind it backwards so that it comes out of the certainly tighten in there, alright. So it has to wind back that way to undo it, which it has decided it doesn't want to do at the moment. A little bit of movement there. Alright, well, you'll hold it between our fingers and give it a tap down with the hammer. See if that makes any difference or not. Nope, the winding arbor comes out, but the centerpiece is still in there. Right, I'll take that off camera because I'll have to get a pair of pliers to do that, and then we'll come back. I've removed all the springs in the barrels and cleaned them and greased them and put them into individual bags, each marked, so we know what mainspring goes into which barrel. We don't want to get them confused. Now we're going to get the rest, the last few pieces put together. We can put them into the ultrasonic cleaner, which happens to be on at the moment, warming it up to about 30 degrees. We can start. Got a piece of wire, bend it over, the barrel on it, the cap, and the ratchet. Bend the wire over. This is tight wire, so I'll use a pair of pliers. Here we go, they're together. That's the going side. Now we'll do the strike side. Barrel, cap, and ratchet. Cut another piece of wire. Bend it in half. Feed the barrel on. Then the cap. Then the ratchet. Then twist the wire. It's the cutters, not the pliers. Now, so that we remember that this is the strike side, not the going side. Mainspring barrel. I'll put another piece of wire onto there. Twist that over and that over. Push them together, then tie them round. That extra piece of wire there serves to let us know that this is a strike side combination. Now we'll do the same for the chime side. Got all that. We'll probably use most of our last piece of wire. That's a pretty decent sized barrel. Barrel on first, then the cap, and the ratchet. I'll cut a piece of that wire off. Too long, we don't need it that long. Now we've tied that off. That's the chime side mainspring barrel and the cap. I've got oil on there. That's the chime side mainspring barrel, plus the cap and the ratchet. Put that aside. Right, now we'll get the basket from the ultrasonic cleaner. We'll start off by putting the plates in. Back plate, the front plate, and now we'll put in all the parts that we've tied up and bundled together so we know what they are. They're easy to find. Then while we're waiting for the ultrasonic cleaner to come up to temperature, and once it hits 30 degrees, we'll then put the parts in the ultrasonic cleaner. And once they come out, I'll take them out and clean them up, wash them in some cold water, then some warm water, and then put them into a tub of naphtha, which will remove most of the water on them. Then I'll run over them with a heat gun on low temperature, just to evaporate the last of the naphtha. Then we'll bring them back to the bench. There we can see all the parts from the clock movement. We'll come back from the ultrasonic cleaner. They all look pretty good. Devoid of all the oil and everything that was on them when they went in. And they've come up relatively nicely. Rather shiny. Yes, very nice. All right. Well, we'll start putting the movement together and checking the pivots and the bushes now. We're ready to start checking the pivots and the bushings for each one of the wheels we've taken out of the movement. But before we do that, the parts have just come out of the ultrasonic cleaner. They look nice and clean, but what we'll have to do is peg out each bush before we check it to make sure that there's no dirt or oil or anything contained in it. So I'm just sharpening a piece of pegwood at the moment, and we'll peg out each one of the bushes by putting the pegwood in it, turning it round, taking out and having a look to see if there's any dark marks on it. Turn the back plate over, do the other side. Being careful of the teeth on that wheel while I peg out the bush. Doesn't look too bad. Now the front plate. Put the pegwood in the bush. Once again, spin it round, pressing it in. Take it out, check it. Little bit there. Alright, so other side of the plate. Put the pegwood in and then roll it backwards and forwards. Now we can look at the pegwood. Yep, that's not too bad. Right, we'll start off the chime side. We'll put the first wheel in. Goes there. Top plate on top of it. Get it aligned. A bit tight there. All right. Gathering pallets all right. Arbors all right. Now we'll put that first wheel in. A bit tight, but that's got him. Give it a spin to make sure it's all right. Put a nut on the pillar, hold it together. Now we're looking at that pivot there. I'll move the wheel. No, that's pretty tight actually. Check it on the other side. That pivot there. No, this seems to be alright too. Alright, may not be a lot of rebushing to do on this movement. I'll take that nut off. Take top plate off again. One. Now I'll pick some of these holes out so we don't have to do them one at a time, and then I'll come back and we'll check some more wheels. Now because the last two pivot bush combinations were good and didn't need to be rebushed, I'm putting the entire strike train in this side. We'll check it in one go instead of doing it individually. So get that aligned up there, and those and those. Alright. Got that, we can start putting the wheels in now. Where's that? There. There. Get the posts aligned. That's looking a bit better. Minute arbor goes in. Got him. Hold that a bit tighter. Now, gathering pallet is in. First wheel. Star wheel. Actually, I think this fly has to go in first. It's a little bit longer on the pivot. Yep, that's in. Star wheel. First wheels come out. Not quite in yet. I'll put a nut on that pillar there. Being hard to get on with. Got him. That'll hold that in so I can concentrate up here. Now, fly's moved out again. Pop him back in. Another nut down here, I think. Save any sort of movement down that area. Right. Check it again. First wheel. We'll put our gathering pallet in. First wheel's come out again. First wheel, star wheel, it's not going down there very far, but they're right. Got him. Star wheel back a tiny bit. Now the fly. Gathering pallet and the fly. Up a tiny bit. There we go. Put a nut on that. Okay, now what do we got? The fly, it's come up a tiny bit, that's why it's not turning. Move that down to there. Still touching. Still touching on the gathering pallet wheel, just up at the top there. It's not, needs to come down a tiny bit. I'll move that down once I take it out. Okay, right, now let's check some bushes. Looking at that one there. No, that's all right. Star wheel. These all seem to be pretty good. The fly, just there. And over the back now. Fly once again, that one there. No, it's not wobbling side to side, that's end play up and down. No, that's all right. Now, that one there. There we go. No, that's all right. The star wheel. That one there. Well, what do you know? They're all okay. Before we start to put the movement back together again, I'll show you how to put the cap onto the mainspring barrel. This is a preferred method for doing it, much better than whacking it with a hammer. Put the cap on and push it down flat. I've got it down the end down here, and then hold that with your finger and your thumb. Open your vise, put the barrel in, and then slowly tighten the vise. Yeah. Tighten it up a bit more so it doesn't move. Undo it. Hold the part that's just come in, put it in again, tighten the vise up. We've got one to go, it's slightly out up there, turn it round, tighten it down. Got one to go, it's slightly out, alright. I didn't hear that pop in, so that's probably why. Right, let's check that. The cap's not fully installed yet, so I'll put it back into the vise, press it down, set the bottom piece that hasn't been closed up yet. Having the rubber bungs on this makes a difference. I just felt it drop in then. Tiny little bit over there. If I didn't have, there we go, it'll pop in. If it didn't have these rubber bungs on here, those pieces on there, it would have gone straight, it would have gone in straight away. But it's moving slightly with that. Now the other thing we'll do, wind that in a bit. I mentioned it before. You have a look, you can see that the winding arbor has been bent out of shape in a few places. When people have just thrown a key on it and wound it, they haven't put the key in fully. So what we'll do is we'll rest that on the vise, and I'll run over the face of the winding arbor to the file, draw filing it and not hacking it like that, draw filing it from one end to the other, which is a far more efficient way of removing metal. Turn it round. As I'm removing metal, you can see the shiny part that's coming up, and you can see how bent and twisted it is. Alright, that's two sides. Here's the third one. This one's not quite so bad. The main problems are right down at the end there, where people have just dropped the key on a quarter of an inch or less and started turning instead of pushing the key right to the full length of the winding arbor. There we go, that's looking better. They're square now, or damn size squarer than they were. So, do a final touch up, the full length over here. And the last side. Right, I'll do the other two off camera. That's the strike side, ready to roll. I'll do the chime and the going side mainspring barrels. We'll get them done the same way. Square up the arbors, the winding arbors, and then we'll come back and start putting the movement together. Right, we'll start off with the going side mainspring barrel. We'll put that in the back plate first. Goes there. Now the strike side. Mainspring barrel again. And that goes there. Now the chime side barrel. Which goes there. Now we'll run up the going side train first. First wheel goes there, second wheel, the first wheel in there, second wheel. And it's getting a bit hard to see in there, but that's the escape wheel. If we can get it into its pivot would be rather nice. Now on the strike side, we'll put the first wheel in. It's got him. Then the star wheel. Goes in there. We'll leave the warning wheel and the fly out of that side until we get the top plate on. They're quite easy to put in once that's done. It gives us two fewer ones to manipulate for a start. Top plate goes on now. This wheel aligned. Once that gets into the lower the seat down a bit, we'll have a better view of what's happening. There, that's caught up. All right, caught up on that. Second wheel on the chime side is catching that up. Alright, well, take the escape wheel out for a moment. So we have to get these other pieces in. We can put the other ones in individually as we get there. Now we've got to get this guy in. Very close, but not quite. Have we got a... Nope, not quite yet. That up. And that up a little bit. Now, see if we can get this guy in. Oh. Dropped in easily before and it's been hard to get on with now. Where's that got to? There we go, got him. Finally got him. Okay, there we go. Put the escape wheel in later on. It's the top of the train, so that's not a problem. I'll put a couple of nuts on these pillars. It's a bit tight. That'll hold top, bottom plate together while we start putting the pivots into the bushes and getting them aligned. Alright, where's our driver, and we'll get that in a bit. That's better. Those other two nuts aside. Don't want those too tight, we just want to hold the plates together. Right, now we can start looking at putting pivots into bushes. Get the gathering pallet aligned. It tends to have a longer pivot on it and needs to go in first so you don't break it off. Now we can start looking from the back and see what we've got here. One's in, that one's in, and first wheel, not quite. I've noticed that the pivots on the wheels between the bottom plates of this movement, the pivots are actually shorter than the wheels pivots at the top of the movement. Consequently, when you're trying to put them together, the bottom ones tend to fall out while you're installing the top ones, which are longer. This wheel almost in anyway. Very close. Is that? That's in. I think that down there's right. That's okay. That's done. Now, I think we've got to get that guy down there. Those 1, 2, 3, they look second wheel, and I think there's one. First wheel in here is being hard to get on with on the going side. It's not quite in its pivot yet. In its bush, I mean. Has that got a... Yeah, that's better. First wheel, star wheel's a bit loose, so it means you've got something over this side here. It's in place. Star wheel, come up a little bit. It's not. Done that right now. Put a nut on that pillar there to hold that very loosely, but hold that for a moment while I go and investigate over the other side and see what's not in its correct bush. Right, the other one will go over here. Now we can check. Whoop! That was a bit loose, wasn't it? Right, now we can start looking at putting pivots into bushes. Get the gathering pallet aligned. It tends to have a longer pivot on it and needs to go in first so you don't break it off. Now we can start looking from the back and see what we've got here. One's in, that one's in. First wheel, not quite. First wheel almost in anyway. Very close. Is that? That's it. I think that down there's right. That's okay. That's done. Now, I think we've got to get that guy down there. All those. 1, 2, 3. They look one. Second wheel. And I think there's one. The first wheel in here is being hard to get on with on the going side. It's not quite in its pivot yet. In its bush, I mean. Has that got a... Yeah, that's better. First wheel, that, yeah, just. Now we want that one, that one. Star wheel, come up a little bit. It's not. And that, right, now. We'll put a nut on that pillar there to hold that very loosely, but hold that for a moment while I go and investigate over the other side and see what's not in its correct bush. Right, the other one will go over here. Right, we'll check and see that everything's alright so far. Then we'll put some more wheels in. Chime side spinning nicely. The going side train. And the stroke side train. Right. Now start putting some more wheels in. With that. Aligned. Okay, that's right there. Now, we'll get the fly aligned. Or we'd like to think we will. It is a bit tight. Loosen that side a little bit. That should be about loose enough. Lift the plate up a little bit to get just drop out. Well, start him off with the big pivot this time. That into there, and then bit more. So that now goes down there. Still not quite loose enough. Back it off a little bit more. We don't want to lose all the wheels that we've aligned. Got over to there, and then that guy goes into that pivot there if we can get it to hold. It's a bit hard to get in. Not a lot of light in there at the moment either, so that doesn't make it easy. And get that down. Fly into there. Wind up a tiny bit. Careful of the gathering pallet. They're all in, right? No. These couple here that are being a bit hard to get on with. It doesn't want to go into there at all. That's there, and that the fly goes there. Oh. All right, that's right. Just the chime side that's giving us some anguish at the moment. All right, I'll get that fixed off camera, then we'll come back and continue. It's going to take too long playing around trying to get that right. As you can see, I've got all the wheels in there now. It was a bit of a challenge at one time because the pivots on the wheels down at the base of the movement are shorter than the pivots on the wheels up at the top. And as you open the plates to put the top ones in, the bottom wheels tended to fall out. However, that's been done now. So we'll start off putting the movement back together again now on the outside. We'll start off on the strike side. Putting the ratchet on. I'll grab a screw that fits in there, put it into our driver. Take it aside. Start it in the slot, then use a normal screwdriver and we'll tighten it down, except of course it's the wrong size. So I'll have to take it out and find a smaller one. Strange, I was sure it was that, but anyway, we'll give this a try. Doesn't look big enough, but well, it goes in, so that looks like it's the correct one. Tighten it down with a normal screwdriver. Now put the click on, which is situated there, right there, and I'd say that is the one that had the large screw in it. Line that up, drop the screw in, turn it round, remove that, use a normal screwdriver and tighten it down. Right, last piece on that, when I can get it, is the click spring. Which goes there. Last screw, put it in our screw catching screwdriver, and got him. Drop him into the hole, tighten it down a little bit, and then using a normal screwdriver, tighten the screw down. Now we'll check and see if the click spring is strong enough. No, it's not. I remember that from when we were taken to pieces. I said some of them had to be tightened up, and that's obviously one of them. So remove the screw, put it back in the dish, align the click spring, and have a look to see how much we're going to have to bend it. About 1/4 of an inch by the look of it. Get a pair of sharp nosed pliers, put them on the click spring and ease it out very gently. Put it back on the movement, in place, line the hole. And it could go out a tiny bit more yet, so we'll redo that. Pliers on the click spring again, move it out a little bit, not too much every time you move it. You're work hardening the metal, you don't want it to break. So we'll align the click spring again in the hole, get our special screwdriver, hold the screw, drop it into the hole, give it 3 or 4 turns, but not down to the bottom. Take it out, and then use a normal screwdriver to tighten it down. Right, now we'll have a look and make sure that we've got our click spring is strong enough. You can see there now, I'm pulling back on it. It's quite strong. It'll hold the click in place. When we wind that up, that'll be no problem. I noticed when I was putting the click spring back onto the movement that the screw that holds it down, that attaches it, has closed up a little bit at the top. It's very hard to get the screwdriver to go right to the bottom of it. It's obviously pretty hard to see there, but there's a bit of a catch 2/3 of the way along where someone has just chucked the screwdriver in that's too big, spun it round, and it slipped out and scored the side of the screw. It's not bad enough to have to put it on a lathe, to reface it with a pivot file, and then run over it with an India stone, and then a degusset stone, and then burnish it, and then re-blue it. So it's not that bad. It doesn't require that. If it was much worse, we would have to. But how we solve that problem is we use one of these, a Swiss-made file, specifically designed for fixing up slots in screws. The top heads there and the bottom heads there have very fine teeth on them, and that's what's used for filing inside the slot on a screw, and either side is completely flat. You're not widening the gap in the screw while you're cutting it deeper. So what we'll do, there's our screw there, we can see. I'll just rest it against this bench vise here, little bench vise, to give us terms of reference to keep it square. And then using this file, I drop it down inside the slot on the screw and very carefully draw it backwards and forwards, keeping it perpendicular to the face of the screw. You can hear it cutting. Let's see if that is deep enough or whether we have to do a little bit more. Right, there's our screw. See if yep, that solved the problem. The driver now fits in and goes right to the bottom of the slot. We can now turn that without any risk of the screwdriver jumping out like so and damaging the face of the screw. Right, I'll now put that onto the movement, then we'll come back and do some more. All the click springs are on now, as you can see. Now we'll start to put a couple of the levers back into the movement. We'll start off with this one here. Goes in there, over there, and in under there. Turn it over on the side, and that goes into there. And as we can see there, there's a hole that we put a little piece of wire in. Not the 18 gauge wire they had in it the last time that was horrible to get out, but we'll be using 24 gauge. So we'll slide the end of the wire in through that hole, push it through about 1/4 of an inch or a bit less, then bend down. That'll hold it in place while we push the other end down. Right, now I'll cut that piece of wire off. Oh, with a pair of pliers I won't. Go with my cutters. Snip that off. Put the wire aside. Then I'll bend the top piece of wire here up and over. So we end up with an S-shape piece of wire over the top. Then up from the bottom from the other direction. That will hold that lever on. It'll never fall off, and it doesn't need to be as tight as the original ones that were a damn nuisance to get off. Okay, so that's the first one. A huge thank you to my Patreon and YouTube members who make this video possible. Without their kind help, I would not be able to keep this channel alive and to make these videos for a living. I can't thank them enough. If you want to support my channel, join my Patreon or YouTube, or make a $2 donation on my Ko-fi page.